Hey, 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 everybody. It is a beautiful Friday morning. And yes, we all know what that means. That is right. It is episode 97 of the Real Deal Pod with Allister and Geoff. We are back. Geoff is back with us from Mexico. I am your trusted realtor, Allister Carrington. We are, as always, joined by our trusted mortgage broker, our mortgage guru, Geoff Lee. Like I said, back home safe from Mexico, was not kidnapped by the cartel like I was afraid of. Geoff, buddy, how was it? How was Mexico?
Yeah, Mexico was great. Was there on a work slash a work event, but with a lot of personal time. Really cool being around pretty much the 150, 200 top mortgage brokers in Canada. It's really nice to kind of pick their brains and on how they do business and to understand that they're just normal people too.
I was gonna say, did you guys put your heads together and figure out how to sort of get British Columbia's or Canada's stalled real estate market moving? Did you guys put your heads together and figure that out?
Well, at the end of the day, everybody does their business the same but different,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think some of the takeaways that I got was just more or less on how to do business a little bit different. I'm a real big believer in just copying other successful people. I'm not a big believer in reinventing the world or reinventing my business. I jokingly say copying is the biggest form of flattery, right? So if I can just emulate some of the processes that these brokers do and implement them into our business, it just makes us that one step better, right? So
It's funny. I have that same philosophy. I go by the philosophy of smart people learn from the mistakes of others.
yeah,
Stupid people learn from their own.
yeah,
Like, so if you know something's a bad idea because other people have done it before, why are you going to say, well, I'm going to check,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like if somebody tells you that the stove is hot, why are you going to test it? Why don't you just go, hey, I believe they touched that stove and I'm not going to touch it.
And sometimes we have to learn from our own mistakes, and it doesn't make us stupid, it just makes us wise. But if we've had that mistake and we go against the wisdom now, your own wisdom, then that might make you stupid.
Or if we know from a wise person that it's not a good idea to do, why are we going to bother going to do it?
Hey, we can tell our kids not to touch a hot fireplace. Until they do, they don't
That
know,
is true. That
right?
is true. But there's a difference between children and adults. That's what I always say.
Is there though?
No, my wife will tell you no. I'm an adult apparently, and she tells me I'm a child every single day.
It's the same, it's just a different topic,
Right?
right?
Right? For me, man, it has been birthday week. So it was my son Casey's birthday on the 18th. Michelle's birthday was on the 20th. My daughter Elizabeth's birthday is on the 23rd. And then my brother-in-law, Sean, his birthday is on the 27th.
And how old is your kids now?
So Casey just turned 17, so he turns the
Oh,
big 818 next year.
right.
Michelle is the I don't what am I allowed to say? Michelle's 27. Now it just makes me sound like a dirty old man, but she'll say better for me to sound like a dirty old man than her sound like an old woman. So
Is she really only 27?
no, man,
Oh,
she just turned 43.
okay. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
like, wow.
she just turned 43, but we say 27 just to, you know, keep me from getting beaten up, really. That's all it is. So I just keep referring to her as younger than what she is.
If
And
you could
Elizabeth,
if you could be any age forever, what would it be?
21.
Really?
Yep,
I think
21.
for me, I would be between that 33 and 39.
What? Are
Yeah.
you crazy? 21. You're legal everywhere. You have zero responsibility at the age of 21. Your life is just like it's like cake. You just get to eat and enjoy everything.
Yeah. I might even push that age up to 40, 41 to 45. And here's my reasoning. When you're 21,
Yeah.
yes, you're young and crazy, but you're also dumb and stupid sometimes, right? You don't have that life wisdom where you're just kind of you're just living life, right?
Yeah.
When you're older, say 39 to 45, you have good life wisdom. You're somewhat at times a little bit more financially, stable. Your kids may be out of the house, right? And ideally, being productive. And now you're really kind of living your best life in
Yeah.
theory, right?
Yeah. That's true.
And,
I
and
see.
you're young enough still to be good looking. You're not like, you're not arthritic and you're not disabled and
True.
you're not, like yeah, to me, I think I would go older. I'm going between 35 to 45 now, just for those reasons. Like you're young, but not young. You're stable in some cases, but not overly stable. Your kids are out of the house. They're not really financially dependent on you anymore. And you're really kind of starting to enjoy your fruits of labor from 21
To then.
forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. That's almost like a question that was posed to us during, I remember my first year in psychology in university.
Yeah.
And I remember my prof asking the class, like, he said, what would you rather? Would you rather be able to go back and talk to yourself at the age of 10, letting them know everything you know right now? Or would you rather have, what was it, $50 million for the rest of your life, from now to the rest of your life? Which would you choose? I chose going back to 10-year-old self and telling them everything I knew. That's what I chose.
10, you're dumb though. 10, you're gonna forget or you don't listen. It could be going in one ear and out the other.
I'd
Like
like to think that I would listen more. I know I'm wrong, but I would like to think that I believe that I would listen more to myself back then.
I would say if you're 20s, like that 20s come back and tell me everything, right?
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah.
hear you. One part of me says I'll take that 50 million, stick it into an investment and just let it ride. Right?
Right? Exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah. Well,
But
man,
anyways, let's go.
yeah, let's get into it. We got a big day today, so as always, let's start it with podcast hottest segment, and that is
Did you know?
that's right, baby. Did you know? And before we get into this week's Did You Know, I want to do something that, we've been sort of doing for the last little bit. I want to set the table. I want to kind of refresh everybody where we're at right now, because that way this week's news will make more sense. So, the world we're living in right now globally, the cost of building a home has gone up, as we know, dramatically, right? Steel, lumber, concrete, the basic materials needed to put a roof over our head. All of it has gotten more expensive coming out of the pandemic, and it hasn't fully come back down. Trade tariffs have made it worse. Geopolitical instability has made it worse. Supply chains that we already stressed are still being managed and not fixed. And on top of all of that, borrowing costs, the interest rates that both builders and buyers have had to deal with, they stayed elevated for longer than anyone expected, right? This isn't just a Canadian problem, as I always want to make sure that we all understand, right? Because I'm going to get into Canada right away, but I just want to set the basis that this housing conundrum experience that we've been going through, it's not just a Canadian problem. This is London, this is Sydney, this is Tokyo. This is every major city in the world grappling with the same equation: not enough homes, costs going up, and wages that simply haven't kept pace. A global affordability crisis that governments everywhere are being judged on, and in many cases, they're being voted out over. And now let's bring it home to Canada. So we need, as I've said before, somewhere between 400,000 and nearly 500,000 homes built every year throughout 2035, just to get back where, quote unquote, housing affordability was in 2019. So we're building roughly half of that. Half. That gap, that 2 million missing homes over the next decade is not a projection. It's the hole that people are falling into right now. And here in Vancouver, the average home price is sitting at over $500,000. So as we know, that's not a luxury home. That's an average home. Greater Vancouver is one of the least affordable housing markets on the planet. We've discussed that. We've covered what that does to families. We've also covered what it does to the workforce, to businesses that can attract talent, to young people who stopped imagining ownership as something that's even on the table for them. And then we've discussed the condo market, which we've discussed before, has stalled. Projects approved, but not built because the math doesn't work. Buyers who bought pre-construction years ago now watching developers pause or walk away because the cost to finish has outrun what the unit will actually sell for. CIBC put it plainly earlier this year that the economics of building new homes in this country are, in their words, simply broken. Prices are still too high to buy, according to our buyers, right? And they're not high enough to build. That's not a market, that's a trap. And Geoff, I know we've discussed it. Fees, approval timelines, the layers of costs stacked onto a project before a single worker shows up. Those upfront charges that municipalities collect to fund infrastructure, water, sewers, parks, roads and parks, they've gotten so steep in some markets that they're actually the deciding factor in whether projects move forward or get shelved. Not the vision, not the demand, but the fees. We've been saying all of this now for months. So this is where the did you know comes in. Last week, Prime Minister Carney walked into the Greater Vancouver Board of Trade and said he wants to make a, quote, structural change to the housing affordability in BC. And that's the did you know, that PM Mark Carney wants to make a structural change to housing affordability in BC. The word structural, I want us to understand how significant that framing is, because structural means he's not talking about a rebate or a one-time incentive. He's talking about changing the underlying economics of building. And this is what he's pointing to. So Ottawa in March of 2026, struck a deal with Ontario and signed a deal that cuts those upfront building fees in half over the next 3 decades. So they removed federal and provincial sales tax on new home construction entirely. The projected result is savings of up to $200,000 flowing directly to the buyers and not into the developers, to the people trying to get into a home. The ink is barely dry, and Carney is already now trying to bring that same framework here to BC. So the province now is saying that they're working on a made in BC version, something that reflects our market, our municipalities, our infrastructure realities. And I understand that BC is not Ontario and Vancouver is not Toronto. The dynamics here are different, the politics are different, and the relationship between the city, province, and federal government are complicated. But here's my thoughts after months of us covering this. The federal government has receipts. 11,000 deeply affordable homes either breaking ground or about to. A new agency built specifically to scale construction faster and cheaper, and a model that's already being put to work in the largest province in the country. What I'm watching now, and what we should all be watching, is whether our BC government matches that same energy or gets lost in the process of trying to perfect its own version of the deal. Because as we've discussed before, I have very little faith in how our province has handled our housing conundrum, for lack of a better term. Because the families in this market don't have time for perfect. they've been living in crisis. They've been at the kitchen table running over numbers, coming up short. They've watched rates go up and down and gotten squeezed. They've watched prices stay high and waited. They've watched the condo market stall. And now the federal government is willing to move. And the question is the province willing to move with it? So, Geoff, my question to you is, do you think that our provincial government, considering all of the stuff that they've put in place, taking away Airbnbs, instituting a home flipping tax, all of this ridiculous stuff that has, in my opinion, done a lot more damage to our real estate here in BC than tariffs or anything like that? Do you think that our government is going to do a good job in terms of creating this made for BC housing strategy that the same type of strategy that they made in Ontario?
I think when I hear
Sorry, Geoff, I gotta shut this. I don't know if you can hear that, but I had a lot of background, and that's what started messing my thought process up.
So when you ask me this question, do I think what Carney is proposing to British Columbia will that kind of happen?
Well, no, do you think Ebby? It's not so much Carney, because as we know, the provincial government has only so much say in how the housing works throughout each province, right? So we know that Carney's had this idea. They put it in place in Ontario. Ontario's accepted it, and they've made it a mandate going forward, right? Now we know that he's trying to bring this to British Columbia, and our trusted leader, David Eby, has said, okay, well, it sounds okay, but we need to tailor this more for BC, which is understandable because we're not Ontario, right? We're not Toronto. So it's not going, it can't be a catch-all, right? There are going to be specific encumbrances that happen province through province. So that has to be done. I'm not poo-pooing that, for lack of a better term. What I am poo-pooing, I guess, is I don't think that the policies that have been put in place, right, so far have helped British Columbia real estate, right? So I don't have a lot of faith that Eby's going to do a great job in implementing this new plan that Carney has and making it, work within BC boundaries. And I wonder what your thoughts are.
Well, I think what I'm hearing is that something has been proposed that has worked in Ontario that needs to be tailored to BC.
Yes.
And then what will that look like when it gets ruled out, right? So I think with anything that we have to understand, number one, I just kind of even want to wheel this back. What your did you know is really about development and building costs, correct?
Well, yes, it's about, and it's that which all goes back into the affordability and ongoing affordability of property.
Because there was some things that you mentioned that I want to get clarification on. But to answer your question, is any good leader is going to do what's best for the province that they're in.
Okay, let's say they're supposed to.
Let's
not say they're going to. Let's say they're supposed to.
Yeah. So if you let me finish.
Go ahead.
So any good leader should basically is basically going to do what's best for the province or the leadership that they're in. Doesn't necessarily they're going to do it. They might have their own agenda. They might have their own mandate. How many times have we seen things that were supposed to be great and stimulate something, which it's done the reverse? And you mentioned it, like foreign buyers ban, the flipping tax, the short term, like those were all implemented into increasing affordability, to increasing opportunity. And that being said, that was with the intention that it was going to work. And in flip side, in my opinion, your opinion, it really has done the reverse. So Do I think Ebby will do it? I hope that he will do it because, again, I'm a big believer into doing things and doing them and seeing if it works. And then if it doesn't work, you can say, well, we did it, we tried it, it didn't work. And then hopefully at some point, and this is much different in politics than in your own life, to reverse it out, right?
Yeah.
So, so do I think Ebby and Carney are on the same page? They seem to be. Do I think it will roll out as designed? That really depends on the leadership of the time, right? So I don't know if that's what you're asking me, but
Well, I think about this. Think about the policies. And here's another note that I found very interesting. So at this meeting, right, with Carney and Ebby and the Vancouver Trade and everybody, you know who else was there? Gregor Robertson. And we all know who Gregor Robinson is, right? He's the Robertson, Gregor Robertson,
to
right?
tell us who it is, because
He's our lovely ex-mayor who during his timeline was his biggest mandate, his biggest platform when he ran was bringing down housing affordability in British Columbia. Well, in Vancouver, right? Was it not? Jeff, agree, disagree? Was that not one of the biggest parts? Homelessness and affordability were the two biggest parts that he ran on, right? Correct?
I don't know what his mandate was, but let's say
so that's what it was. So he didn't even speak at this thing, and he's supposed to be the one in charge. This is why I don't have a lot of hope, because we've got one mayor in David Ebby, who I believe is, pardon my, incompetent. I'm just gonna say it as is. I truly believe he's incompetent. I don't believe in anything that he's done is right nor works. And then we have the mayor before him that also ran on making things affordable, and this is supposed to be his domain. And it sounds like Carney's the one taking it over and talking about it, and he's just now sitting in the seat.
Well, this is exactly to my point, right? Everybody has the intention of goodwill, or not goodwill, of moving forward in something. The reality of it is it going to work or not, right?
Well, and then you said the key thing was to get out of it. If it's a bad decision, then to step back out of it and move on.
That's not going to happen.
So let's talk about some of those things if you want. Like, let's talk about Airbnb. Has that proved to be a great idea?
No, it has not.
Have we moved on and said, okay, let's scrap that and bring back Airbnbs? No, we're letting Kelowna do it.
But we're letting anybody we're not letting anybody do it. We're letting there's and again, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if your vacancy rate is higher than 3%,
2 years
for a
straight,
period of 2 years, then you have the ability to apply to basically waive the short-term ban. So it's not like we're letting Kelowna do it. Kelowna has been in a situation where their vacancy is higher than 3%. They applied to get rid of short-term, and then away you go.
Exactly.
But Airbnb policy, has that Airbnb mandate, has that done what it was designed to do? Absolutely not. In fact, it's done the reverse.
The reverse, and that's my point. And let's look at the flipping tax, which is like one of the dumbest taxes that have been instituted. When, just so everybody knows, in 2025, the NDP introduced the flipping tax, which is 20%. Yeah, it's 20% tax on homes sold within the purchase of 1 year, right? But here's the thing, right? What BCREA found out, and that's our governing body, right? They found out that short-term flipping, that represented less than 2% of sales activity in both Vancouver and Victoria, right? Well, and they felt that tax was projected to reduce home sales by 1 to 2% over 3 years. What the hell kind of impact on affordability does that have? Like, that is right there, a ridiculous tax, because it's not even addressing affordability. It's addressing 1 to 2%.
Well, not only that, you're taking a look at people buying distressed homes and making them a lot more marketable as well.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. What that does is that hurts even buildings, current like older buildings, because a lot of older buildings, they get they get bought into because either the residents that were living in there or a flipper bought the property, renovated it, and sold it. And that brought new blood into that brings new blood into that old development. It makes that older development newer again because people are taking care of the units inside, right? And then making them desirable. So that home flipping tax took every distressed property, well, not every, but pretty much every distressed property that is on the market and just made it lay bare and sit.
Yeah.
So this is what I mean. Like they're not like, in my opinion, Ebby's decisions have not like decision making. They don't have not shown the capability to make maybe something like this work. Now, maybe it will. I don't know. But for one person to want to make structural changes on affordability in Carney, right? It's great. I'm not on here to say that I think that it's going to work because I don't. So let's just be honest. I really don't think it's going to work because I think there's a lot more things that need to be done in terms of British Columbia real estate in order to fix affordability. Like I think property taxes need to be attacked. I actually think we need to increase our property taxes because one of the reasons that we have this real estate problem in the first place, not just geography and being wrapped around by mountains and ocean by water. We also have low property taxes, which incentivizes caring as opposed to selling. So I think that needs to be taken care of as well. So there's a lot of fundamental other things that have to be taken care of. But this guy, for all of these ridiculous decisions that he's made to put property back on the market, none of it has helped the market. All of it has hurt the owners of these properties and the developers of new properties. And again, development runs like BC development model depends on pre-sales, right? And he's effectively killed our pre-sale market. I don't see how any of this can work because Carney has one idea of making structural changes, and Ebby, none of his ideas make any sense.
Right. So how do you like Carney's proposed ideas?
I like the proposed ideas. I personally would, and I know we can't wait this long. I personally believe we need to see how they work in Ontario. Like I'd like to see how it all rolls out in Ontario before we start adopting these plans because it may not work in Ontario, right? Again, knowing Ontario is a different type of market. I believe it would have been easier for Carney to test pilot this in Ontario, right? Test pilot it in Ontario, see what happens in Ontario over the next 3 years. Again, taking into account all of the other geopolitical things that are going on and all of that sort of stuff. Then coming and saying, hey, Vancouver, Fraser Valley, all you British Columbia, this is what we've done. We've test piloted it for X amount of years. We know you guys face different things. What do you think you need to do in order and changes you need to make to specify this, to specialize this to British Columbia, and then move on. But to try to roll this is March. This is March that Ontario just started this. 2 months later, we're trying to figure this out for British Columbia too, and I just don't think we have all the answers yet. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and I think with Ontario, as in British Columbia, or Vancouver and say Toronto, it's the two biggest impact provinces with market corrections right now.
Yeah.
So what is the leader of a country trying to do to address that particular situation in the support of the provinces as well? And again, from what I'm kind of getting your vibe from is you just don't have any faith in the leadership of BC to kind of move that forward and do what's best for BC because based on what he's done he's done the complete opposite to what's best for the BC housing and the markets here in, well, primarily impacting Vancouver and the Fraser Valley and the greater Vancouver area, right?
Yeah, and I think that we've spent I think, and it's really easy, but I think we've gotten lost in not the minutia so much, but the top level part on trying to lay everything constantly at the federal level, right? Or laying it on tariffs and what's going on outside of our borders. I think that because of all the noise going on outside, I think it's gotten really easy just to lay it all up high, as opposed to taking a look at really where it needs to be and where the problems really sit are within our borders. And I'm just saying, next time that we got a chance to vote, which unfortunately everything I read, Abby's going to win again. I really do think that we need to do a better job at holding our political figures to their feet to the fire, not from an outrage standpoint. That's where we are in the world. That's the new culture, outrage culture. We just, as a culture now, we just want to be outraged about everything, but not be solutions oriented, or not even care to listen to the solutions. We just want to be outraged about everything that we hear.
The problem about keeping, not the problem, but the issue that we have about keeping accountability, say, to our political leaders, is that how many people will actually vote, number one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now you have people that have voted, which I think is less than 30%. I think it's in the 20 some odd percent of people who vote. I could totally be wrong. But then how, like, again, the people that care are really not, are the people that vote. And then you got 65%, 70% of people, 75% of people that are not voting, and to your point now, are outraged.
Yeah.
But the first thing that people need to do is vote.
Yeah.
Right? And then you have the entitlement to be outraged. If you're not voting and you're pissed off, that's on you. That's not on anybody else.
Yeah. And when I ask people again, this is again somebody that's right now a proud independent that left his Conservative Party and all that sort of good stuff. Don't stop listening to the media. Stop listening to our leaders talk about sides, the liberal left or whatever you want to call it, or the crazy right or whatever you want to call it. Because again, for Canadians, so that we just understand, all right, the liberal is not the far left. That's the NDP in our country, right? The liberal is actually the middle. And as I always used to joke around, those are the people that just didn't know what to do, and they just figured, I don't know. That's why I always joked around about liberals just not knowing what the hell to do, because they didn't have a side to choose. So understand that the crazy left is not the Liberal Party. It's the NDP. They are the ones that are causing us so much problems in British Columbia. And it's factual now. It's factual. We are again running at a deficit, and just in real estate, I think in British Columbia, running at a $2.2 billion deficit. $2.2 billion. It's supposed to raise again next year. I think we are, as a province, at $4.3 million in debt as a province, and we're supposed to get higher next year. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what people need to understand, that these decisions that we make when we decide not to vote, or we decide not to be educated in what we're saying to other people, well, to our other people, and especially to ourselves, then if we're not voting and we're not getting educated in it, then please, I don't want to hear us complaining about it, because we're actually doing the damage. It's doing the damage. But we need to be fixed, because this housing thing is not going to be fixed by the feds. Okay, it's not going to be fixed by our liberal government federally. It's not going to be fixed by a conservative government federally if they come into power, because they don't have the power to do so, right? It's going to be fixed provincially by the next government that we choose, hopefully. And that's my did you know? Now you know.
And in essence of time, I think this is where we'll also wrap it up. But
oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Just on my did you know, Geoff, you got nothing to say today? Did I literally talk out our time?
You know what? I got lots to say, but for essence of time, we're 45 minutes deep in, so we'll end it on that. But it was I can tell you were passionate in it,
I
and
am. Did it make sense, Jeff? Did it make sense?
you know what? It makes sense. It makes sense, and at the end of the day, really, what I'm hearing from you, and what I hear from you is that we have a housing issue.
Yeah,
There's no doubt about it.
yeah.
We have issues in play where our government has implemented certain policies, rules, legislation in place in the best interest at the time to create affordability for housing.
Yes.
We can talk about, and we've touched on the home flipping tax. We've touched on um,
Vacancy tax. It's all the tax. It's all the tax problem, really. All the tax problems.
we've talked about Airbnb. We've talked about lots of things. And at the end of the day, like again, when we take a look at short-term rental legislation, when we take a look at foreign buyers ban, when we take a look, well, which is more of a federal than a provincial, but when we take a look at um, the flipping tax, when we take a look at all the legislation that's been put in place provincially or federally, the whole purpose and the idea was to stimulate affordability and stimulate basically first-time home buyers to get into the market. Unfortunately, it has done the reverse. We are now again in a very soft market. We are in a time where the housing is just not moving. And how do you go about to do that? And this is where Carney will come in and say, well, hey, when it comes to development and developers, this is the plan, and this is what we're rolling out into British Columbia, or sorry, Ontario, and this is our plan to roll it out in BC. But then we have a provincial government that says, well, let us BCize in it. But his history shows that everything that he's touched in regards to housing has basically flopped, right? So why is this going to be different, right? And really, it was going to go into what I was going to talk about the psychology of home buying and basically why we are in the state where we're in versus, just five years ago in 2020, 2021, we were in a complete reverse market in a time where we should have basically been in a time of now, right?
Yeah.
And now we're in a time of now where we should be basically seeing buying what they were doing back in 2020 and 2021. It's done the complete opposite. And again, why is that? And it comes down to the psychology of why people are not buying. And this is kind of what I wanted to get into is that back in the day, not even back in the day, today, home ownership means security, right? Home ownership means stability. Home ownership is an identity. Home ownership is for your family, and it's a sign of independence and it's comfort. But all of a sudden, the importance of home ownership isn't there. Like the fear, there was at a time back in 2020 and 2021, there was the fear of missing out,
Yeah.
right? And people were buying, I always say it was buying like it was Boxing Day, and really having no regard, and their emotions were kind of just letting them take over, and buying really in a market that they shouldn't have been buying at,
Yeah.
right? But the psychology of the effect of it was um, rates were ultra low, the lowest ever. Um, but it was also the fear of missing out. And I've said this before, a lot of us will do what the person in front of us do. And everybody in front of us was buying, buying, buying. And it led a lot of Canadians, as well as our country, into financial distress,
Yeah.
right? And now in today's market, we have the complete opposite. We don't have the fear of missing out at all. We have the fear of buying. And and again, the fear behind that is, well, I'm waiting for the market to correct. Well, the market's corrected, right? We're in the second worst market that we've seen since 1980. Uh, rates. Rates have corrected. We're in
Yep.
the second lowest rate environment since COVID that we've ever seen. Well, people are then saying, well, I want COVID rates. Well, do you want COVID prices?
Mhm.
Right? And when you do the math, buying in today's market at its current prices and its current rates is a heck of a lot smarter than buying it back in 2021 when rates were at an all-time low, but prices were at an all-time high, right? Then the other thing is like, can I afford it? Like we have basically been groomed into a mindset that housing is not an affordable solution anymore. Like we can't afford it. And that's not necessarily the case, right? And we talk about, what's important to people. What is important to people is their net worth. So even back to, how old do you want to be? Like, what would be an ideal age for you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
An ideal age for me is a place where I know where my net worth is going. Like 21, we don't really know where our net worth is going,
That's a good
right?
point. That's a good point.
Right?
Yep.
When we're that 35 to 45, we have a good understanding as far as where we're going.
Yeah.
And again, like CMHC did a study, and we keep on repeating that study. Home ownership. If you and again, correct me if I'm wrong. Like if you own a home when you're 34 years old,
Yeah.
your net worth is,
440,000 if you own a condo.
and if you're renting, your net worth is.
44.
Now, if you fast forward it to the age of
5.
65,
Yeah.
right, your
Yeah.
net worth, I believe, is 1.3,
1.4.
1.4 if
Yeah.
you own a home.
Yeah.
And how much if you don't?
$11,900.
Right. So when we talk about like if you have any desire to have net worth, not when you're 21, but when you're 35 to 45 and having a direction as far as where you're going to go,
Yeah.
home ownership is a key piece to that, financial success,
Yeah.
that financial independence,
Yeah.
right? And I've said it and I'll say it again. Your net worth is not gonna, well, I'm not gonna generalize everybody, but your net worth is not gonna come from the income that you've earned through the years of your employment
Yeah.
or your self-employment. Your net worth is going with the majority of people, I'm not saying everybody, is going to come from the homes that you've owned and sold throughout your lifetime. That is where your net worth is going to come. And yes, if you financial advisors will say, hey, if you did this, if you did that, sure. But the reality of it is, unfortunately, most of us do not.
Mhm.
But your net worth, what you're going to have when you retire, is going to come from home ownership. And we talked about this too, Alistair, is we're going to have a lot. We're not right now. We don't have the fear of missing out, but what we're going to have in 3 to 7 years is going to have buyer's remorse,
Yep.
right? We're going to have thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people to say, shit, I should have bought back in 2026. Like, but I was trying to time the market. I was trying to time the rates. I was doing what the person in front of me was doing, which is nothing. And then all of a sudden you missed out on one of the golden opportunities to basically make yourself financially independent when it comes to your golden years,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And again, like there's a big push with our new Generation Z, to rent. Like there's a big push and a lot of opinion is why young people should rent versus buy.
Yeah.
But I go back to what I've said before. You can have an extreme left opinion, you can have an extreme right opinion, you can have a middle opinion, you can have a conservative left, right, middle opinion. You're always going to find someone that's going to agree with you,
Yes.
right? But if you take a look at the history of what home ownership is over hundreds of years,
Mhm.
it will always tell you the same thing, right?
Yep. Goes
So
right
it's
back,
not,
Geoff, to learning from the mistakes of others and not learning from your own.
and it goes back to, again, like a kid should just know, but a
Yeah.
kid doesn't know until they learn from their mistakes,
True.
right?
Yep. Yeah.
Because again, a kid, again, young adults don't listen to their parents,
No, I don't.
right? But including myself, including
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
But
yeah.
as you get into that age of not 21, but to that 35 to 45, just like when you become a parent, it's like, you know what? My
They
parents
were
make the
right.
most sense,
Yeah, they were
right?
right. Damn it.
They were right. So I just encourage people, that are that are not buying because of emotion. It is not really because of affordability. It's really because of mindset,
Yep.
right?
Well, we said
And
it
if
before. Sorry, Jeff. We said it before. CMHC did the study, and most people, most first-time buyers, they're not holding back because they don't have the cash to do so. They have the cash to go buy right now. What they're afraid of is making a mistake.
yeah.
Yeah.
And again, if you take a look at on how the media puts things forward, it is all on fear. And I haven't really heard any media outlet say, hey, this is a great time to buy, Canadians, right? We're hearing that the market is going to continue to correct. The market's corrected.
Yeah, no.
We're here. And if people are waiting for rates to go lower, the reality of it, folks, rates are actually going to go higher, right? If you take a look at fixed rates, again, we're in the second lowest rate environment, or pretty close to be the second. We'll say the top three just to be safe.
Yeah.
But if we're taking a look at fixed rates, your fixed rates are largely determined by what the US 10-year Treasury bond does. If you take a look at as far as where the US is as an economy and where it's going, it's not really doing very, very well,
Yeah.
regardless of people's opinion. But if you really break it down, the US is struggling, right? And if
I read something. We're on the verge, and again, this is a couple economic or economists, sorry, that are saying we are on the verge now of a global recession.
right.
Yeah.
So when we're waiting for rates to drop and people understand it, they need to understand that our fixed rates are largely based on the 10-year Treasury bond.
Mhm.
And if the US isn't going where it needs to be, your US Treasury bond, you're going to see fixed rates start to rise,
Yeah.
right? And what the US does have a direct or collateral impact on what Canada is and how it performs and what its inflation does. And once that starts to get a little bit out of control, we're going to start seeing our variable rates rise,
Yeah.
right? So if you take a look at a lot of smarter people than me, if you take a look at projections, the projection for rates are actually to go up within the next 3 to 5 years, right? And again, not to get too deep into it, but the rate that people are now leaning towards, which again, people are very fearful of because of the last 5 years, the variable rate is a very, very, very good strategic position to be in moving forward,
Yeah.
right? That's a whole new pod.
Yeah.
And then again, I go back to the market. The market, folks, again, we are in a situation, we are in an environment where now is the time to buy. It's not affordability, it's not rates, it's not market. Right now, to me, it's mindset. And again, our responsibility here is to educate. And if any of those three things are holding you back, it's rate, don't let it be. Be educated on what that looks like today and what that's going to look like in 3 to 5 years. If it's market, the market is going to correct. I can assure you it is going to correct at some point.
Mhm.
When? I don't have that crystal ball, but I can assure you within 7 years, we are going to have a lot of Canadians having buyer's remorse,
Mhm.
right? And again, it's affordability. Understand, folks, that when you are getting financing here in Canada, your stress tests, right? Your mortgage is based on 2% higher than the contract rate in preparation for the market to correct. So this is one of the actually a good guideline that the governments have done is to put a stress test in place just in case the market is to kind of do crazy and wild things, which again in the last 5 years it has, right?
Yeah.
So again, actually, I wasn't going to get into my bit, but I actually just did.
I
So
love it.
that's what I that's what I got. See, that's what happens when you become passionate about something else, right?
Right.
That's why I kind of let you roll with it because
Yeah.
hey, I could see the fire in your eyes, right? So I was like, hey, I'm not going to slow him down. Just let it get it out and have opinion. But again, the emotions, as far as why in the psychology of home ownership, where we're at today, is just backwards,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like where we're at today is a time of opportunity.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and again, we're just not, a lot of us just aren't there. And I think it's just really important to kind of take a look as far as what is holding you back. Get educated in as far as if that's a valid opinion or not. And I'm not talking about a chat GPT. I'm talking about a deep dive. Understand where what your opinion is, but get a really true understanding as far as what your opinion is and if it's true or not, or if it's valid, or what's the validity in that. And then start making smart decisions that are going to impact your overall net worth in your golden years. So you're not going to be that guy or that girl to say, you know what, I should have, I could have, I didn't. And now here I'm at the age of 55, 60, and really now going to struggle.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, like before we tie this down, that's one of the things I just wanted, because when we always talk about like crash, 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 and all of that sort of stuff. And again, I just want to touch on why, or just want to finish up by saying like why it will not crash, like why BC real estate will never, I guess I can't say will never, crazy things can happen, or will more than likely never crash. It's legitimately because what is it, 13? What I think it's 13% of our GDP. No, 16. It's 16 to 18% of our GDP, our gross domestic product, is tied up in real estate for the province. So of our 322 million, right, 16 to 18% of that consists of real estate and the trades that go on underneath it. And that's the other thing. If we have a so-called crash, right? It's the construction, thousands of jobs and significant tax revenue will go away. That's another reason why the province will never allow real estate to crash. Is it's the job loss that will encompass everything that goes around it. The province will never it will never allow it to, or will never, well, no, will never allow it to happen. And the biggest thing is that the kind of the structural collapse needed, the kind that wipes out 30%, 30 to 40% of value and doesn't recover, it requires a combination of mass unemployment, rising rates, falling demand, and oversupply. That perfect storm is almost never going to happen. So that's what like people really need to understand what encompasses a crash and why it will probably never happen.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So,
again, people that have that opposite opinion, they'll find it.
they'll find it. Sure, you can go on any backwoods forum on the internet to find some place where your opinion's going to be is going to be validated. But the fact of the matter is, and we've said it before, if you've got to go talk to 15 to 20 people to finally get the person that will agree with you, there's a better than average chance that you and that person's opinion is misguided. I'm not going to say wrong. I'm going to say misguided. So again, it goes back to what Geoff and I always say. Make sure that you have people in your power team that are educated to what is going on, that are willing to push back on you and tell you why your thoughts might be misguided and be able to show you the stats and the reasons why you should be doing something different, right? That is what's so important. That is what's so important. And then just again to tie it up with our governments, consultation needs to be mandatory. The people who build homes, finance them, transact them, they all possess the information that governments need to make good decisions. So governments, listen to these people, right? Don't believe that they have their own agenda. Let's all work collaboratively to end this nonsense and give our people the confidence to engage in our marketing it. Because that's what it is. It's not FOMO, it's FOMAM. Fear of making a mistake. That's what people have right now is FOMAM, fear of making a mistake. So let's end the FOMAM now. All right, people. Thank you so much for listening to us today. Geoff, did you have anything to say before I sign off?
Do your thing.
All right, people, again, thank you so much for listening to us today. We hope you had a great long weekend. It was amazing. I was at Cloverdale Rodeo. It was amazing. So we hope everybody had a great long weekend this last week. We hope you have a great weekend this week. Get out there, enjoy the sun. I'm going to be out doing some showings, but taking the family out at the same time. Business is still going on, so that's a good thing to hear. We hope you have, again, a great week. Continue to love, like us, and share us. We hope that today's content gave you something to think about, because that was a lot that we packed in today. We hope it gave you something to think about. If you know somebody that would be interested in hearing the things that we've shared with you today, please pass along our name. Please continue to love, like, share us, tell everybody you know about us. Most importantly, stay empowered, stay informed, and Geoff,
Stay tuned.
that's right, baby. Stay tuned. Peace out.